Zait Hamidbar is one of 24 individual family farms in the 1 million acre Ramat HaNegev region, making up 22% of Israel's landmass.
This chunk of land has the potential of keeping us in the front line of innovation.
In 113-degree desert heat, a drill bit hit something 2,300 feet down, and water rocketed out of the borehole on its own pressure. The workers on the rig stepped back as it climbed past their boots, past their waists into open air. Below them, locked in the sandstone they had just punched through, sat enough water to fill Lake Superior 40 times over. None of them knew yet that 50 years later, 1 million tropical fish would be swimming in it. The well that shouldn't exist. The Negev desert hits 113 degrees Fahrenheit in summer and sees rain maybe twice a year. For most of human history, nobody lived here permanently.
We need to be inspired by the challenges to make the most out of the natural resources that we have here. The building of the nation came from the desert. The Negev was a test for our survival and still is now.
You cannot farm what you cannot water, and there was no water to be found anywhere on the surface. So in 1973, when a geologist named Eliezer Izar showed up with a drilling rig, nobody expected much. His team was running routine surveys of rock formations beneath the Negev. The whole thing was supposed to be procedural, catalog the layers, move on. They drilled through 2,300 feet of solid sandstone, and they hit water. It did not need to be pumped. It erupted upward on its own, rocketed to the surface completely unassisted. The first thing the workers heard was a low rumble through the rig, then a hiss.
We have the process that's called desertification. Desertification is a process where land that was fertile and good for food production is not fertile anymore, and we cannot use it for agriculture.
Then the column came up the borehole and slammed into the sky, falling back down in sheets onto cracked desert ground that had not seen a real rain in years. The water was hot. The air was hot. But there was a temperature differential between them you could feel on your skin from 20 feet away. A self-flowing artesian, well-powered by nothing but millions of years of compression. In a place where the sky gives you nothing, the ground was giving them everything. The team did not know it in that moment, but they had just tapped the Nubian Aquifer, one of the largest underground water reserves on Earth. It stretches beneath 4 countries. It covers more than 772,000 square miles. It holds an estimated 150,000 cubic kilometers of water, enough to fill Lake Superior 40 times over. The water itself was ancient.
All of this starts from the basic fact that the land of Israel is small. We don't have the luxury of not using the Negev desert, but it also connects very strongly with the ethos of the birth of the Negev.
Geologists call it fossil water, rain that fell on the Sahara when it was still green, still a grassland, roughly 20,000 to 40,000 years ago during the last ice age. As the climate shifted and the desert spread, that ancient rainfall got trapped in porous sandstone. It had been sitting there, completely untouched, since before humans discovered fire. Israel had found an ocean beneath the desert, and it was completely useless. The 2 reasons nobody could use it. Problem 1 was temperature. When you drill 2,300 feet into the Earth's crust, you get close enough to the planet's core that geothermal energy takes over. The water in that aquifer had been slowly heated over millennia to a constant 99 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature of human blood. You cannot drink water that hot in a desert. You cannot cool anything down with it. The thermal shock alone destroys root systems. Problem 2 was salt. After sitting in rock for tens of thousands of years, this water had dissolved minerals from every layer it passed through, about 1/10 the salinity of the ocean. Sounds manageable. It wasn't. It was enough to kill wheat in days. Israeli agricultural engineers tested it on experimental plots. Within 72 hours, vegetable plants showed visible stress. Leaves yellowed, growth halted. Within 2 weeks, most plants were dead. The obvious move was to cap the well and walk away.
Bringing together scientists, decision makers, companies, farmers, all together sitting around the same table, make sure that we find the right solutions, we develop the right technologies for the desert.
40,000-year-old water nobody could use. But the researchers did something different. They stopped trying to fix the water. They asked what could live in it. If you're already locked in on this, do me one favor before we go further. Hit that subscribe button, because the answer to that question is the part of the story almost nobody outside Israel knows. And once you see how they pulled it off, you'll understand why every water-scarce country on Earth is now studying what's happening underneath this desert. The perfect fish for an impossible place. In the tropical rivers of Australia and Southeast Asia lives the barramundi, a prehistoric-looking fish with silver scales and a wide, powerful jaw that humans have been eating for roughly 40,000 years. Aboriginal communities in northern Australia were catching them before the pyramids existed.
We are running about 190 barramundi fishes. Any wastewater from here is pumped back into the reactor and treated and pumped back for the same water to be used for the rearing of the fish.
The barramundi lives in river mouths, where freshwater rivers meet the sea. These are brackish environments where salinity fluctuates constantly. The barramundi does not just survive this, it is built for it. Its body evolved to handle shifting salt concentrations with ease. And barramundi are tropical. They thrive in water between 79 and 93 degrees Fahrenheit, almost exactly the temperature of the water erupting out of that artesian well. The water that killed wheat was the perfect water for this fish. Researchers identified 2 more candidates. Tilapia tolerate salinity up to 15,000 parts per million, 5 times higher than the Negev water. European sea bass migrate between freshwater and marine environments their entire lives. All 3 species were biologically built for conditions that destroy conventional crops. Then came the part that made the math work. Anywhere else in the world, farming tropical fish is brutally expensive. Farmers in Northern Europe and North America install industrial heating systems that burn through tens of thousands of dollars in energy every season. That cost flows straight to the consumer. It is why a fillet of premium barramundi in a European supermarket costs what it costs.
We have here a big water reservoir, underground water reservoir. They are not good enough for drinking, but we can utilize it to grow fish. It is actually adding nutrients to it.
In the Negev, the geothermal heat that destroyed crops kept the fish at a perfect tropical temperature year-round, for free. The fish would live in a permanent summer paid for by the planet itself. So they had the species. Now they needed to build the farm. Building the farm in the wasteland. In the early 2000s, the construction started. Kibbutz, Mashabe, Sadeh, and Aquatech fisheries broke ground on massive earthen ponds and concrete tanks across the Negev. They drilled additional wells into the aquifer. They installed pumps and aeration systems. And they began filling those tanks with barramundi, tilapia, and sea bass. The fish adapted almost immediately. For them, this water was home. Within months, the Negev had become one of the most productive fish farming zones in Israel. Kibbutz Mashabe Sadeh now operates ponds spread across 30 acres. Aquatech fisheries expanded to 49 acres, with annual production exceeding 2,000 tons. A single pond, holding 264,000 gallons, supports thousands of fish at once. Workers walk between the ponds in long-sleeve shirts despite the desert heat, because the air above the water is cooler than the air 20 feet away. Dust kicks up from the ground around the perimeter, while the surface of each pond stays glassy and still. On paper, the operation looked like a success. Then any experienced fish farmer will tell you the same thing. Keeping fish alive is the easy part. Keeping them alive in their own waste is the hard part. And within months of scaling up, the Negev farms hit the wall every fish operation eventually faces. The waste was building up, and it was going to kill everything. The poison. The fish were making. A single barramundi eats roughly 3% of its own body weight every day. In a pond with 100,000 fish consuming tons of feed, the math gets brutal fast. Every fish releases ammonia through its gills, every hour, around the clock. Ammonia becomes toxic to fish at 2 parts per million. It burns gills, damages nervous systems, destroys immune response. Cross that threshold, and within days, fish stop eating, then they stop swimming, then they die in numbers that wipe out an entire pond inside a week. Bacteria in the water then convert that ammonia into nitrite, also toxic, then into nitrate. The water gets steadily more poisonous for the animals living in it. Left alone, a fish pond poisons itself. Fish farms handle this 2 ways. mechanical and biological filtration, sand filters, biofilm reactors packed with beneficial bacteria, UV sterilizers. They work, but the pumps alone consume enough electricity to power 50 homes. Operating costs for filtration and aeration can exceed $50,000 per year per facility. The second option is to dump the contaminated water. Ocean fish farms in Norway, Chile, and Scotland flush waste-laden water directly into the sea. The environmental cost is severe. Excess nitrogen and phosphorus fuel algae blooms that suffocate marine ecosystems for miles around the outflow. In the Negev, neither option worked. There was no ocean to dump into. Water of any kind was too precious to waste. The contaminated water would kill the fish if they did not replace it. But it was too valuable to throw away. The engineers were stuck. Every conventional answer the global aquaculture industry had developed over decades assumed access to one of two things: cheap electricity or open water. The Negev had neither. Building, filtration plants would burn through a budget the operation did not have. Dumping was physically impossible. The fish would die. The farms would close. 40,000-year-old water would go back to sitting in rock, and the desert would win. That is when an engineer looked at the ammonia and saw something nobody had been looking for. The reframe that broke the problem. Ammonia is toxic to fish. To plants, ammonia is nitrogen. Nitrogen is the single most important nutrient for plant growth. It is the reason every farm on Earth spends a fortune on fertilizer. And the way humans currently make nitrogen fertilizer is one of the most violent industrial processes ever invented. It is called the Haber-Bosch process. It pulls nitrogen out of the air and combines it with hydrogen at extreme heat and pressure to manufacture ammonia for fertilizer. It works. It feeds nearly half the population on Earth. Without it, billions of people simply would not exist. It also burns through roughly 2% of the entire world's energy supply every year, just to produce the nitrogen that makes crops grow. 2% of all the energy humans use on every continent for every purpose goes into making the same molecule the fish in the Negev were already making for free. Picture that for a second. Massive industrial plants in Germany and China running around the clock, consuming natural gas, releasing carbon, just to fabricate nitrogen molecules. While in a pond in the Negev desert, 100,000 barramundi were producing the exact same compound as a continuous byproduct of breathing. The fish were not producing waste. They were producing organic, nitrogen-rich liquid fertilizer, continuously, for free. The engineers were not facing a pollution problem. They were facing a resource distribution problem. The fish were generating exactly what crops needed, in a form crops could absorb directly. In the same hot water the crops would need for irrigation. 3 problems were not 3 problems. They were the same solution showing up in 3 places. You could buy synthetic nitrogen made by burning natural gas in a German chemical plant. Or you could let the fish make it for you in the Negev. The fish never stopped. The fish never sent a bill. The closed loop. Instead of filtering the water or dumping it, engineers ran irrigation pipes directly from the fish ponds to agricultural fields. The water flowed out of the tanks, slightly cooler now because the fish had absorbed some of its heat, and into the root zones of olive trees and date palms. The same liquid that started as a problem ended its journey feeding crops that wouldn't normally grow within 100 miles of here. Walk the pipes from one end to the other, and you cross from a fish farm to an orchard without ever leaving the same flow of water. The crops absorbed the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium from the fish waste. The soil itself acted as a living biological filter, with bacteria breaking down ammonia into usable nitrate, while the tree roots pulled nutrients from the ground. No filtration plant, no chemical processing, just biology doing what biology has always done, only with the entire process compressed into a few hundred meters of pipe. The first result stunned everyone. The olive trees grew faster than expected. Fruit yields on the experimental plots at Kibbutz Mashabe Sadeh jumped 15 to 20% compared to conventional growing conditions. The reason came down to delivery. Synthetic fertilizer dumps nitrogen into the soil all at once. Plants can only absorb so much at a time. The excess washes into groundwater, pollutes rivers, and triggers environmental damage downstream. Fish waste breaks down gradually. It releases a steady stream of nutrients over weeks. The result is healthier, more efficient growth. As for the salt that everyone feared would destroy the trees, olive trees and date palms evolved in the Mediterranean and the Middle East, where soils are naturally saline. They tolerate salt up to 5,000 parts per million. The Negev water sits at 3,000, comfortably within range. Then the trees did something nobody predicted. When plants experience slight stress, they concentrate sugars and flavors as a survival response. The dates grown on this water came out sweeter. The olive oil came out richer. Long-term monitoring revealed one more surprise. Salt levels in the irrigated soil did not accumulate over the years. They went down. The trees were absorbing salt and concentrating it in older leaves that dropped during pruning. They were not just tolerating brackish water, they were slowly desalinating the soil around them. A grove of olive trees was doing the work of a multi-million-dollar reverse osmosis plant. Quietly, while also producing fruit, water rose from the aquifer. It nourished the fish, picked up their waste, fed the trees, filtered through the soil, seeped back into the ground cleaner than when it left. Nothing went to waste. Every output from one part of the system became an input for another. The Negev did not become productive despite being a desert. It became productive because it is a desert. The blazing heat that made the water undrinkable kept the fish at perfect tropical temperatures. The salt that destroyed every conventional crop filtered for exactly the species that could thrive there. The ammonia that poisoned the ponds turned out to be one of the most valuable agricultural inputs on the planet. Organic, free, endlessly renewable. The numbers that broke everyone's model. Fresh water from desalination plants in Israel costs between 60 and 70 cents per cubic meter. A 2.5-acre crop plot can require 88 million gallons of water per year. That puts the water bill alone around $7,000 before you spend $1 on seeds. For most crops, those margins are unsurvivable. Brackish water from the Nubian aquifer costs roughly 5 to 10 cents per 35 cubic feet, a 90% discount. The drilling was a one-time investment made decades ago. Artesian pressure does most of the pumping work for free. The fish farm pumps the water up, uses it. The fish warm it. The fish load it with nutrients. The agricultural operation takes that same water and gets free irrigation and free organic fertilizer in a single delivery. No water bill, no waste disposal cost. The fish farmers do not pay to remove their wastewater. They sell it or trade it to the crop farmers as a premium input. The thing that should have been the most expensive part of the operation became the most profitable part of someone else's. Two industries that would normally compete for the same scarce water instead share it. Together, the economics work because of each other. Neither could survive in this environment alone. Today, multiple farms across the Negev produce over 3,000 tons of fish per year. Israeli barramundi is exported to France, competing on price with fish from Australia and Southeast Asia. The same fish that costs a fortune to raise in Norway costs almost nothing to raise here. Other arid nations have noticed. Egypt has launched pilot fish farms using Israeli methodology in its western desert. The system, born 2,300 feet beneath the Negev, is now spreading to deserts across the Middle East and North Africa, and being studied by water-scarce regions on every continent. The carbon picture is just as strange. Conventional fish farming in cold climates burns enormous amounts of energy on heating. Transporting the final product across continents adds millions of tons of emissions on top. The Negev system eliminates both. Geothermal heat instead of gas or electric heating saves the equivalent of 200 tons of carbon dioxide per operation. The date palms and olive trees pull additional carbon out of the air. A 25-acre plantation with 1,000 trees removes roughly 66,000 pounds of CO2. The system is not carbon neutral, it is carbon negative. It removes more carbon than it emits. A farm in one of the harshest deserts on the planet is doing what most farms in temperate climates cannot. It is leaving the air cleaner than it found it. The fish in the desert. Right now, in a pond at Kibbutz Mashabei Sadeh, a barramundi is swimming in water that fell as rain on the Sahara 30,000 years ago. The water around it is the temperature of its blood. There is no ocean for hundreds of miles. There is no river feeding the pond. Above the surface, the desert reaches 113 degrees and the ground cracks under the heat. Below the surface, the fish is in its perfect habitat. It does not know it is in a desert. It has never known anything else. If this changed how you see deserts, hit subscribe, because the next discovery I'm covering makes this one look small. We're going underground again, but this time into a structure that should not exist where it was found. The team that uncovered it cannot agree on who built it or when. That video drops soon. Until then, drop a comment and tell me, what's the one resource near you that everyone treats as worthless? I read everyone. See you on the next one.